Can everyone hear me that's on the attendance? Were you able to unmute me? Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out this wonderful afternoon. First, I'd like to welcome our Region Commander, Colonel Bruce Heinlein. Thank you, sir, for joining us this afternoon, making the drive up. We also have the Maryland Wing Vice Commander for Forces, Colonel Chris Howell, here as well. I'm Lt Col Don Ells. I'm the Chief of Air Operations for Maryland Wing. This meeting today is to highlight the Bay Patrol for fiscal year 19. We've had some changes to the operations order. We wanted to highlight some key things that we've seen over the past several years and be able to answer any questions that members have. This is going to be recorded. We have a webinar going. We have about 20 personnel currently on the webinar. If you do have a question, I ask that you type it into the chat, and Major John Ralph will make sure the question gets relayed, and I'll repeat that. For those of you that have just recently walked in, if you haven't signed in, please ensure that you sign in at the front of the room here so we know who attended the meeting this afternoon. At all, please feel free to stop me while I'm giving the briefing in order to ask questions. I'd prefer you not hold them till the end, because then sometimes you might forget, because that happens to me quite often. Next slide. So today we're going to go over the reason why we do this mission, the CONOPs, talk about some of the weather concerns that have been raised historically in the past with the pilots, flight crews, safety of flight officer that's typically at Martin State, the flight track that's going to be flown. We've modified it a little bit compared to the previous years, and then uniform requirements, because we've seen historically flight crew members having a mixed match of uniforms or not wearing the appropriate attire with the appropriate uniform. So I went to 39-1 and pulled out some key aspects and highlighted some key points that I've personally seen, and I know have been recognized probably by other members in this room across here, because as an organization, we want to ensure we're providing a professional image forward, especially when we're interacting with other agencies. Next slide. So the mission of this is we're supporting the state of Maryland in various federal agencies by checking flying the Bay Patrol, looking for distressed boaters. Also part of this is the state of Maryland has requested this as a Homeland Security mission, since we are flying over critical infrastructures, Calvert Cliffs, the Chesapeake Bay, looking for potential signs of suspicious activity around those that we would in turn report back to the state of Maryland for follow-on requirements. So again, as the observers and the scanners are looking out, because the pilot will be flying the aircraft, if you notice something, make sure that you report it back to mission base. One of the key things here is please do not loiter over some of these critical infrastructures. If you do see something suspicious, check it out. Don't loiter. Same thing for if you find a distressed boater. You can loiter over the area if requested, but stay within gliding distance of land if at all possible during that. And then this is flown as a B-18 mission. So this is a Homeland Security mission. We need to coordinate with national headquarters on the sorties. So for pilots with the schedule, please ensure that you have your sortie entered in approximately a week in advance so that that can ensure that the approval process go through that. As we'll go through the briefing, we'll talk about what happens if my aircraft goes down for maintenance, or what happens if X occurs, and what we're expecting out of the air crews from what we've seen from prior missions. Next slide. Yes.
I don't know if you have it later, but because it's a B-18 mission, it has to be on the correct credit card, so I want to bring it up.
Yes. You'll need to use the multi-service card for this, since it is a state-funded mission. So this is not an Air Force AFAM mission, but this is a state-funded mission under the B. Next slide. So when does it start? It starts Memorial Day weekend. We're going to start, I think we're moving that date back. We're going to start flying the Friday before Bay Patrol, because a lot of the area around here, especially with it being heavily federal employees, a lot of them take off that Friday beginning beforehand, and the holiday starts around that time as well. So for most of the 4-day holiday, or for the holidays, we'll be flying 4 days. 4th of July falls on a Thursday, and Memorial Day falls on or Labor Day falls on a Monday. So we'll be flying Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then we'll be flying Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 4th of July. All these will be rotated between the groups. Just so happens this year, Group 1 got 1 extra sortie out of it. Major Strong back there, thumbs up. So next year we'll rotate that through if we keep the same schedule. And Group 2 will have 1 extra sortie next year, and then for fiscal year 21, Group 3 will have 1 extra sortie as we go through. Those have been pushed out to the groups, commanders. I'm asking the group commanders to start working on getting those scheduled up, especially since we're a little over 30 days out for the start of the season. We want to make sure that the schedule is getting filled up. Right now, I'm acting as the Bay Patrol coordinator. We are looking for someone to fulfill that role. I will be having a few discussions here later. And once we identify a person that will do that, they will be the primary contact for Bay Patrol to ensure that if there's any issues or concerns that are brought up, that those get raised through that appropriate channel. One of the key things here that we've seen on some of the missions in looking at Fertile Keynote and Bay Patrol is my my aircraft is down. It went down for maintenance, so I'm going to cancel my sortie. Well, what we're asking for is that we're all professionals within this organization, and that puts a last minute bind on other individuals within here. So one thing that I ask of all the pilots in here and the air crew members is that if your aircraft goes down for maintenance, when you're booking your aircraft, have an alternate plan. Look at what other aircraft or other airport you could drive to that's nearby to ensure that the mission is successful, because we may not be able to find someone if you cancel the day of that can fly that mission, which then doesn't allow us to do our function of supporting the state per the request. So that is one of the key takeaways that I wanted to make sure. Unless there is like a true, obviously there are extenuating circumstances with everything, but plan accordingly is what I'm asking. Yes.
So what is the priority in that case? Let's say my plane goes down for maintenance, I find out 3 days earlier. Frederick or St. Mary's, so I'm going right to Frederick. What if they have a plane booked for Horizon or something else? Can we bump them off, or can we call them and say,
So I would ask that you first call the pilot that's reserved the aircraft. See what you can work out with them. I've been able to do that when I've needed the aircraft for a mission and said, hey, I understand this. Can you maybe shift your O flights by 2 hours or do them earlier in the day so I can have the plane here? And I'll tell you, most pilots are willing to do that. Typically, how it's been is A missions have priority, then followed by the Homeland Security missions, and then so on down the line. It's really hard to do that, but I mean, we have 11 aircraft within the wing. So you have, if your plane goes down and the other aircraft's booked, you have 9 other aircraft that you can potentially go from. We're fortunate enough in Maryland Wing and within the National Capital Region here that I can drive it within 20, 30 minutes and be at 4 different aircraft. If we start looking at what Texas Wing has to do or Montana Wing, they have to drive 2 hours to the closest aircraft sometimes. So as much as I want to have sympathy sometimes of I've got to drive 30 minutes, I know what our mission partners and our comrades and other wings have to do. Yeah. Yes, we've all driven there. Yes. Yep.
You know, you might not have all choices in the world that you want to get. What is the priority?
And if it comes down to that, that's why John and I are at the wing level to work out those issues as needed. But first call to the pilot, see what you can work out with them. And then, as with anything, try to resolve it at the lowest level and then move it up the chain as you need it. Don't immediately call the wing commander, Colonel Winter, and say, they won't give me the plane for Bay Patrol, because the first question Colonel Winter will ask is, have you tried to resolve this at the lowest echelon? And if the answer is no, he'll say, please try that first.
Hold on, if I hear you calling, you're not calling me first.
I don't call anybody. I just call the pilots if I'm taking the plane and I'm sending it Russia.
Next slide. So I wanted to highlight, per the op board, what the weather minimums are for the Bay Patrol mission. VFR rated pilots, no less than 5 mile statute miles visibility. IFR rated pilots, no less than statute visibility. 2,000 feet MSL, winds not exceeding 25 knots, 15 knots POH. Those are pretty much in line with what 70-1 states. This is where I would like to foot stomp and kind of highlight some of the concerns that were raised last year, is that it's Maryland. Thunderstorms pop up. We have isolated thunderstorms as you may be flying Bay Patrol that are projected convective weather activity, but the weather's gorgeous right now, but maybe during your flight there is projected convectivity. What we're asking is use your best pilot judgment, and if the weather is nice, fly as much as you can of your Bay Patrol mission, and if the weather starts to deteriorate, land at the nearest airport, wait for whatever weather to pass through, because typically it'll be probably an hour max, and then either resume Bay Patrol or RTB back to your place. What we don't want to see is a storm cloud that's in Cumberland or Ohio, and we get the phone call saying we're canceling because there's thunderstorms on their way to Maryland. So while we're not asking you to force you to fly, what we're asking you is to be safe, but use pilotage, use your ADM, look at what the weather is. If you're flying your Bay Patrol and a thunderstorm pops up in the northern track over Martin State and you can't get up to do that northern part, just cut that portion out and fly south and do that track. Or if you're flying midway through and it's going to come directly towards you, land at Cambridge, land at Easton, wait it out. If the weather's so bad that you can't take off back again, we will work to get a van or something, pick you up at the airport. So we will work with you on that. But we had several cancellations due to weather, and it turned out to be a gorgeous day to fly. It was just that it was projected to be convective that day. Yes.
Yeah, some of the things we had last year for those of you that are out on the western side is Frederick or Hagerstown or Cumberland, those guys. They have to get that line coming from the southwest up there, and they're going, well, we can probably fly, we can't get back. But fortunately, they reached out, and we were able to get other crews where it was good here locally in Baltimore. So the whole thing is communicate. Let us know. If you're going to be socked in, you can't get back, that's fine. But, don't just cancel the sortie. We might be able to still fly.
Yep.
Colonel?
Yes.
One thing I've done in the past is supervisors are flying. We're often checking our radars and stuff, and we will, if we see storms along that flight path, we will communicate that directly with our air crews. But Ultimately, I think it's up to the PIC. If they feel unsafe, then they will put the aircraft on the ground, I would hope.
Correct. The safety of flight officer at mission base is there to help the pilot be aware of the weather and other things that are going on in there, and also take notes and keep the records log of that mission. But the PIC is ultimately the one that is responsible for making the decision on that. The status or the safety of flight officer can't direct the pilot to land the aircraft. They can recommend that there's inclement weather moving into the area. And typically, I mean, for all the pilots in here, how many of you have ForeFlight or Air Wing X? How many of you have a Stratus or fly G1000? Make sure you're understanding of the delay that the G1000 has with propagating weather, because you can be 5 to 10 minutes delayed. Same thing with your ADS-B. Look at the last update, because you could have 5 minutes difference there and change. Yes.
Another point is, most of the time, actually all the time, you fly big when you're talking ATC, they will tell you if there's weather coming. If they know you're a small plane.
Yeah, more mundane. Ceiling at Martin State, because this happened to me last year. 1,800 broken, and it was just going to be that way, and the rest of the route looked pretty good. But we had the 2,000-foot ceiling level. Is 2,000-foot ceiling hard? And everywhere else, we were probably better than 2,000.
So let me chat with Major Ralph and Colonel Henderson about that, and see if there's exceptions to that. I think if it's going to be sustained below the 2,000 along the entire route, then probably no. But if you can do like what would be considered a special VFR out of there and the rest of your route's fine, then I think we should be able to accommodate that. But let us chat about that, and then we can revise the op board as needed to do that. That's a great question.
We had that actually for F-16 mission out of Martin Breda now.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was, I think ceiling was at 1,800, but 3 miles from Martin, it was all clear.
Yeah.
We filed IFR, canceled at 3,000 feet, and then we were in VFR the entire time, but otherwise. So yeah, figure it out.
Fertile keynotes are different because we're at the behest of the Air Force on those ones.
It's over the airport and just
Yeah.
we can take off at least if you IFR rated, and then after that it's all VFR.
Yep. So we'll chat about that, and we'll send an email update. So thank you for bringing that up. And yes.
Sorry, one other thing, just a quick question. Can we, if we see weather, if the SOF see weather on the radar, can they suggest, can the aircraft alter their flight path to get around that?
Yes. And that's part of the PIC responsibility of their pilotage. I've personally been flying when there's been pop-up thunderstorms and ATC is vectored around, and you can see the clear path of where the thunderstorm's at and where you can fly at. That's on the pilot as part of that safe aeronautical decision making at that point. Any other questions regarding weather? All right, next slide. Again, I kind of highlighted these. Just fly the aircraft if you can. Don't cancel necessarily. Try to find alternates if you can. We'll work through it. Be safe, be responsible, use ADM. Ultimately, we're all rated pilots. We passed our Form 5s. We passed our Form 91s. You should be able to be trusted to make that appropriate decision there, but we just want to make sure that the mission's being accomplished as well. We've got some of the best pilots in CAP and Maryland Wing, is my personal opinion. Next slide. All right, air crews. We'd like to see a max air crew, weight and balance permitting. We understand with some of the G1000 172s, you can't fit more than 2 adult members in the aircraft. Try to have the mission pilot, mission observer, mission scanner. One of the things we are doing is the mission pilot will be fully qualified. The mission observer and mission scanner can be trainees. One of the key things that we are going to be pushing is that the mission pilots are to fly the plane. The mission pilots are not there to sign off qualifications for a scanner or an observer. That can distract you from being able to fly your mission and making sure that you have a safe flight. With that, if you have a set qualified mission observer that's flying your mission scanner, they should be the one signing off your mission observer. If you have a mission observer who's also mission scanner set qualified, they can sign off your mission scanner, and vice versa. The pilot is there to fly the mission, not to be distracted by providing additional training. Yes?
Can we have a mission pilot trainee flying the aircraft if we have a set qualified mission pilot on the seat? Did it last year? It worked out fine. Just want to make that observation and ask the question.
We will be good with that, yes. So that's the biggest thing. We want to highlight that because a lot of times we see mission pilots trying to fly the plane, ensuring that they're showing an observer how to use the GPS. That just causes distraction in the cockpit. So it's just a step to ensure better safety and CRM within the cockpit itself. Yes, sir.
One real quick thing on qualification. State patrol mission is not a great training mission for somebody coming up with their. If you happen to have one or two line items that need to be signed off, that's great. Please try to reserve your set training for initial MO or MS quals for our A5 missions. That's what the funding's there for, and you're gonna get training. That's all I wanted to add.
See how we're doing. Yeah, and so if you've got all your advanced tasks done and you need another sortie, this is a great one to get your additional sortie on. But in terms of you're flying the Bay Patrol, there's not much of scanning outside. You can keep a log. They can operate the radios, help with the GPS, those types of things you can do because they can pre-program the points for the Bay Patrol in there. They can do the engine start time, engine stop time, but some of the other tasks of searches and that aren't just going to be able to be signed off within the overall mission that for what we do for Bay Patrol.
Colonel, let me make one quick point. I've seen in past Bay Patrol operations, I've seen pilots calling back to the SOFs and stuff. Is that for the pilots or is that directly for the mission observer?
What do you mean they're calling back?
They're reporting over the waypoints and stuff. Is that operating the radios? Is that for the mission observer?
That is for the mission observer. The mission pilot is there to fly the aircraft. When the mission pilot starts to deviate from flying the aircraft and talking to base and doing this and trying to do with ATC, it's task overloading, and that's when mistakes happen, and that's when you accidentally fly into the SFRA without getting approval ahead of time, those types of things. We don't want to see that happen. So that's why we're saying mission pilots there to fly the mission. Any other questions? All right, next slide. Safety of flight. So we've talked quite a bit about this. One of the things that has kind of changed from last year is that previously you needed to have MRO, CULs, that type of stuff. Training. The requirement is that if you have not done SOF previously, you need to have at least one training mission by an experienced SOF in order to know your duties and responsibilities. We will be creating an SOP handbook that will be up at Martin State and the other assignments. I was just speaking with Major Ralph on this. We are going to open up other mission bases to support the status of flight position to be held from. So that will help out tremendously. I know last year there was a lot of angst with us being required to have it at Martin State due to the 200 megahertz radio. We're still working with the state to acquire another radio, but we are working through that right now. So hopefully that makes a lot of the SOF and ICs happy in the room for that. So with that, we'll have the electronic for the other mission bases. When we get the SOP, we'll send out the electronic version. If that can be posted at those record. One of the other things too is we're going to be hosting the records for every sortie within the Maryland Cloud server. So if you're an SOF, we'll need to get you access to that specific folder. And then we're looking to have a specific incident tracker that would be fed up to the state of Maryland, because that was one of the things that they had asked for, is if we have an incident that you respond to, whether it's a boater in distress or suspicious activity, since this is a Homeland Security mission for the state of Maryland, is that they want some sort of incident tracker. So we're looking at the best way to do that. We looked at the comms log for that, and that just wasn't very conducive to what they looked like. So we'll be working through that and have that out before Bay Patrol starts this season. Yes.
Is it possible for Montgomery Senior to DHS XTL 5000, which would meet all the requirements of the radio that you have, there? Is that something that you think is possible? We could consider doing, rather than flying somebody.
Guys, I
Yeah.
can answer that. We're kind of the new kid on the block when it comes to the 700 megahertz portable radios, which is what the state requires. So it's going to be a logical progression. Two portables. Colonel Henderson has one stays at Mission Base, and that's why Martin was the only place, okay? Because we're the new kid on the block, they want to start building some trust with us and see how we're working. So Colonel Henderson is hoping to get 3 to 4 radios this year, okay? Each license is associated with the radio. So just because you might happen to have a 700 megahertz radio doesn't mean that it's qualified or legal to operate on the 700 megahertz band, okay? So it will be coming forward. The plan is to get these radios out to the mission bases, but they got to be approved mission bases, and we'll get them to you. So it's just a baby step process, unfortunately. So, but that's where we're at with that, and that's the concept of where we're going. So it's moving. It really is. It's moving in a positive direction.
Can we, just a quick question, can I be an MROT and training and be able to be a supervisor of training as long as I have a skills evaluator with me?
Yes, if you're looking to get that signed off. There is no requirement for mission radio operator.
Okay.
You just need senior member and ICUT.
Okay.
That is the only requirement to be a SOF. All right. Next slide. So flight plans. This has changed a little bit. I'd like to thank Major Holcomb for doing a lot of due diligence and working on this. We'll be calling Washington Center to file our flight plans. We have 2 pre-stored flight plans at Washington Center. 703-771-3476 is the number to call to file your flight plan. When you call, you'll give them your CAP ID or your flight profile. If you are the first or the third sortie of the day, you will use 1801. If you are the second sortie of the day, use 1802. You give your aircraft type, departure point, departure time, VFR, fuel on board, number of souls on board, pilot name and phone number. You will squawk 5126 or 5127. 5126 will be used for the first and third sortie of the day, and 5127 will be for the second sortie of the day. Please, I ask, please do not make modifications to the pre-stored flight plans. We have worked with Washington Center on that. They have saved off a separate copy in case if one of our pilots accidentally makes changes to the pre-stored flight plan. But just follow the procedures outlined and they'll step you through that. One of the things that, I'll get right to you, Sam, is that we will use the squawk only while on patrol. So departing from your home station, en route, you will use normal ATC squawks and procedures. Once you get on station, you will then request and say you will be transferring over to your assigned squawk for your mission. and then you will then switch over to 5126 or 5127. Yes, sir.
Pardon me for a minute. This 3 months workout with Washington switched over from Leidos last year. When they switched everything over to Washington Center, you guys remember a few years ago, to Leesburg, and then when it went over to Leidos, none of those records got copied. So we had to create all this stuff new this year. And the reason why we decided to go with Washington Center is, guys, we're traveling through 3 different types of airspaces that are going to require 3 different kinds of coordination. So this is an actual FRZ flight plan, believe it or not. You know, we're not going into the FRZ, it's in there. But here's the reason why. Once you've activated this flight, so if you're on the ground at Martin, I would call Washington Center before you leave and just activate your flight plan, okay? It's already active. What the controllers are going to do are 3 things. Number 1, they're going to activate that flight plan, and of course they let Potomac know right away that as part of that flight plan, you're wanting to come into the class Bravo. It's going to help quite a bit. They will let them know. They will let them know, just like any other handoff, what your squat code is and what you're doing. Okay, the second thing they automatically do is now they file on behalf of us, because it's already pre-stored, the SFRA clearance. So when you're going to checkpoints 3 and south, it's already done for you. Okay, and then during that handoff, if Patuxent is open, that will let them know that we want to go into the restricted airspace down there. And typically on the weekends, it's cold, but you never know. Okay, so that is all wonderful coordination that we had to work out, and it's already been approved by the NCRCC. So all these entities are aware that we're out there. So if you're coming from point west, fly like you normally would until you get to point 1. But as soon as you're ready to depart, call that number at Washington Center and tell them to activate that flight plan. Okay, they don't really care because they got this nice little 6-hour block for us. What time you start it, it's going to be in the system. They're going to be watching for you.
Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel.
Just one comment. Last year, consistently, one of the pre-stores, we had a 5-hour duration of flight as well as 5 hours of fuel. So someone wants to take a look at that.
Yeah, it was adjusted because our RCDs don't have 5 hours of usable fuel on board. So the only thing they're going to be asking you to do is just to amend for that flight plan. The tail number so they can put it in remarks, okay, and the pilot name and phone number, contact number, and that's it. It should be real easy. The supervisor has already contacted already had a meeting specifically about what Civil Air Patrol is going to be doing on Bay Patrol this year. All of their controllers are aware of this and when we're starting. So I think you're going to, for those of you that called me with frustrations last year with Leidos, I think you're going to find that going by the wayside.
What's the duration of flight that I can start with nothing on fuel?
Yep. So, well, we did put in a 6-hour block. It's not on the flight time. It's just when you activate it, you're coming from Frederick, and then it's going to take you 2 hours there, and then 2 hours on station. And God knows what. We just didn't want the thing to end. Okay, that's all. So it was painstaking, and we had to start all over and get all new letters of agreement and all that kind of stuff. But we did this with you guys in mind, just to make your job so much easier.
Just to make sure I'm not missing something, we identify ourselves to Washington Center by either CAP 1801 or 1802.
By landline only.
And this will be outlined specifically in the op board. We're waiting on final approval by the wing commander. So once we have that, that'll be posted and we'll distribute it out. We've been working diligently to get that squared away. There's a lot of significant edits from last year to shorten it down a little bit. Yes.
From a logistic point of view, if it's more efficient for us to start the route other than at checkpoint 1, do we have to start checkpoint 1 personally
So, because you're going to be coming out of Easton.
Yeah, so those on the eastern shore, it would be more convenient for us just to fly up there, get those, and then fly over to checkpoint 1, which is I think Baltimore City. So instead of flying to Baltimore City, then have to double back. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So,
all the checkpoints are in the form. So
You got a question?
It's going to be activated. Where you fly to, it doesn't matter. You're activating the entire route.
Yeah.
And if the first one you happen to hit is checkpoint 9, so be it.
Yep. Any other questions regarding flight plans? if you have any questions, feel free to email us ahead of time. We'll be happy to answer them. We know this is a big change from last year, but hopefully it's a much easier process for all the pilots and air crews here. Yes.
So out of Gaithersburg, we still call 1216 Potomac clearance, get our squad, and we stay on that squad all the way to checkpoint 1, let's say. At which point we change the squad and we expect our plane to be active because we called 703 number.
Before you took off, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
But when you called it 703, did you get the squawk from SFRA?
No.
This is just for Bay Patrol. If you are in the SFRA and you're going to Bay Patrol, you'll still need to do your normal procedures. Because this is only with Washington Center for Bay Patrol specific.
If you take off out of here.
Yes. Because otherwise, until you get on station, you follow all other normal procedures for if you fly in the SFRA. So for those of you that fly out of Tipton and Gaithersburg, I apologize, you will call twice, but that's the way it's set up. Next slide. I don't know why this is bold, probably because I don't want you to violate airspace. Again, with the flight track, which we'll be going into following up here, we have the pre-stored flight plans. You're going to be going into the Class Bravo in Baltimore. You're going to be transiting through the SFRA. You're going to be going through R4006. Make sure, just because you filed the Washington Center flight plan for Bay Patrol does not give you automatic clearance to go into the restricted area or the SFRA. You still need to coordinate with ATC to get approvals to go into the SFRA and R4006. And you bust the airspace, that is grounding. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why I want to reiterate this. Do not go into the airspace. If ATC denies you, please do not argue with ATC. They probably have a valid reason. Just deviate your Bay Patrol flight path to go around or not enter those restricted areas. If they say denied, thank you, denied, and make the pilot judgment to do that. Don't argue that you're on a CAP mission and that this is mandatory and this and that, because then it doesn't look good for our organization. And then when we go to coordinate these with Washington Center in the future and we try to do that, we get well, your pilots were extremely rude to our controllers and they're not going to be as willing to help us out. So just get permission, don't argue, and deviate if need be. For the mission observers, please don't call that I'm over Calvert Cliffs or I'm over the Inner Harbor. Call out your checkpoint over checkpoint 2 en route to checkpoint 3. Over checkpoint 3 en route to checkpoint 4. We have those for specific reasons. While our frequencies are not widely published to everyone, there are a multitude of amateur radio operators and amateur individuals that have various equipment set up scanning the RF spectrum and pick up frequencies and listening on them. And I think I had a blog one time where someone was trying to correlate tail numbers and CAP with call signs, thinking there was a weird conspiracy going on with it. So people are listening. And so just use normal OPSEC procedures of checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2. That's why we have those on there. Yes, sir. Yes.
One thing I did want to bring up, Ken, if we end the Bay Patrol and then we've got the aircraft is en route to home station, but then I'm shutting down to get a call from the Coast Guard or DNR and stuff, what do we do? I mean, do we call the aircraft and say, okay, we need help?
So if the aircraft's almost back to base, how we handled that in the past.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah,
You have to call IC if you need to spin up a.
another aircraft. So that would be the best thing. Call the incident commander that's on call. Let them know that our Bay Patrol mission has concluded for the day, but there's been additional requested support, and then we would just go into another.
Because I've seen it happen before.
Yeah, because there is some separate funds set aside to support last minute state call missions. So
Procedurally speaking, as soon as the Bay Patrol aircraft says on RTV, the mission's over, except for short get home. So you don't want to turn around and divert back.
especially if they may be low on fuel as well and won't have enough endurance to stay on station.
And one other thing I would bring up to the pilots is when you are wheels up, wheels down, please call the SOFs. Let us know that you are wheels up or wheels down, so we don't worry.
Yes.
Okay, so I did have with SOF quite a few times last summer, and I noticed that comms wise, when you're right past Cambridge, we can't hear you anymore at Martin. So you can call in the blind, but you won't be able to hear us. We can hear you. So that's down there, like, so I can still take my notes, but you're not gonna hear back from me. You might hear a click of the radio, so I'll try to click it just so you can hear, but I can't, yeah, you can't hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
No, we've been around, we tried many different ones and.
But the aircraft might not.
Yeah.
Yes, Major Sachs.
So, one workaround there is to climb down there, and you really should climb down there anyway, because there's a lot of water.
Yep.
Wide there. So it's a great way to kill two birds with one stone. It's right in halfway.
Yeah, you don't want the sortie to turn into a cruise while you're down there. Yeah, I don't think they want to do that.
So, for those of you, Flight Radar 24 is going to track you.
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
can do it.
So that's the backup, you guys know where they're at.
Yes, sir.
Couple things. I know that when I was IC several times during these, it was very helpful to have the soft call and say, I'm soft today, we'll do a big patrol on the schedule. Just gets me a situation where we're in what's going on in the house. The other one is, we had 6 years ago, John,
Yeah.
4 missions of that. That can happen. So if there's stuff going on and you get saturated, you need to raise the flag and let somebody see there's stuff going on. Looks like I'm okay with what I have, but it could go beyond the mission. So raise the flag early and let people know that you're getting inundated and missions could multiply.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Could the SOF shut down when the plane is RTB?
What do you mean shut down?
The plane is done with Bay Patrol, it's going home. Can they close, are they done?
They're going back to Hagerstown. Do they need to sit there for an hour?
I would say no, because they can give you a phone call and let you notify you that your wheel's down.
Yeah, remember, when you're the SOF, you're effectively ensuring that they're safe arriving home, just like the FRO does.
Yeah.
Make sure they have your contact phone number if you're gonna shut down the base.
Yeah. And I mean, if as the SOF, some of you may not be FROs either, so whoever the FRO is also will be getting the phone call that their wheels down and safe back at home. But it should be, as a pilot, call your FRO and call your SOF, both to let them know you've safely arrived.
This raises a separate issue. I know that sometimes we would fly the SOF in, but then when they went home, the SOF would be in the aircraft with the.
So everybody.
So basically, somebody's gonna have to drive.
Well, no, if the SOF is on the aircraft, they can't release the flight. So then that would be part of the FRO to to follow up with that as well. Yep.
So we changed that this year, because we listened to you guys out in Frederick and Hagerstown saying, if we have to have the SOF there all day, you're just taking away our ability to put somebody out there, now they have to drive. So we took it back to where it used to be. Yeah, no problem sending your SOF, your SOF, on the crew. I mean, a lot of them want that flight.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, next slide. All right, here is the wonderful track. Looks similar to last year. It starts with checkpoint 1 in the Inner Harbor, goes down to checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3, checkpoint 4, checkpoint 5, I believe is Calvert Cliffs, checkpoint 6, cross the bay. Should be climbing down here because there's lots of water. Then checkpoint 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're done. Approximately 2 hours flight time with that. I would fly directly to checkpoint 8 and then start your flight path there. St. Mary's, come up to checkpoint 6 or checkpoint 5, 6, go across for probably checkpoint 3, Gaithersburg, same thing. So just use your judgment on which checkpoint to come in at and start your sortie at, but make sure you fly all the checkpoints, weather pending and mission pending. One of the things I didn't talk about is if you get a sick crew member, take that into account. We understand that some crew members might get sick. Been there, had that happen a couple times. So, yes.
You guys have noticed the checkpoints 11 and above, all paths are gone. You got a lot of, a few concerned calls from Martin Tower, that if we went to, say, Tolchester Beach and then tried to go to Hart Miller and hop there, we're coming right across the IFR arrival route where most even the VFR traffic are coming through there. Okay, so took them off, and if you go from checkpoint 10 there to checkpoint 2, you can still climb up to 2,400 feet, 2,500 feet before that ring, and remain within gliding distance to get back down. Now you won't hit the Martin class Delta, okay, and now you won't be in their arrival route. So if anybody's wondering, well, how do I get across there if I start off at St. Mary's or Easton? You can do that without requiring a Class Bravo entrance. You get right over to to Fort Howard there without bothering anybody's airspace. So that's why we did that.
Colonel, can you clarify something? So basically what you're saying is if they're coming in from like Easton or Tipton, they're not starting at checkpoint 1. So how, as an SOF, how do I write this down? Starting off at
It'll be that they call in that they're starting at checkpoint 3 and they're in transit, or let's say it's Easton, they're starting at checkpoint 8 en route to checkpoint 9, and then that's where.
Okay, so they're doing it backwards.
They're not doing it backwards. They're doing it which is most efficient for the mission.
Okay.
Yeah. If we have them fly all the way up to checkpoint 1, we're adding undue time onto the mission. It costs us more money and it costs us fuel. Where if we have them start there, we can still complete our full mission, but save money and time. Yes, sir. So you're going to be flying at 1,000 feet along there. So you'll be well below the Bravo on all these, except when you potentially climb here. If you feel more comfortable flying at 3,000 feet across the bay, coordinate with ATC for a Class Bravo clearance. Yeah, this one is 3,500 here. Oh yeah, this one's 15. Yeah, this one's 1,500. This one's 2,500. So you're coordinating that surface. So you're coordinating with BW or with Potomac, who will transfer you over to Tower and give you in there. And then when you transit out, they'll transfer you back over to Potomac, and then you continue your flight on. One time, yep. Yes.
I think this was in last year's maybe. I'm not sure if it's also in this year's, but that like when we have multiple sorties a day, like extra one, extra two, extra one again, that say Easton flew it, you know, but there was, some people would fly it backwards or something, and then whoever was first, the following one had to fly it the same way. Is that still the same?
No.
Yeah, it's in the output.
Is it?
It is. Okay, so real quickly, here's the scenario, okay, it's Easton. There's a little bit of a storm going through over Martin, so each side, they're gonna go from 8 to 7 to 6 and fly around that way. Perfectly fine. But Cap 1802 and Cap 1803 for the rest of the day have to follow that track. That way we don't have, you could potentially have 2 aircraft flying, but we don't want them going at the same time. One's usually landing while the other one's launching. Okay, but yeah, it's still in there.
Okay.
And again, that's for weather. We want to give you guys the greatest opportunity. I had a couple of missions where I had to fly last year that it was raining at BWI in Martin City. I just stayed south. Are you still doing your patrol? Absolutely.
All right. Next slide. Yes.
So if we are to follow, say we have 3 sorties on given day, and the second and third must follow whatever the first guy decide or gal decides to do. So if that first sortie is out of, say, Tipton, starts at 3, goes counterclockwise, and the second sortie is out of Easton,
It's still counterclockwise. They don't start with 3.
and if it's out of St. Mary's,
Still have to go counterclockwise.
and if it's out,
Don't let it start 3.
It's just a safety
Okay.
thing. That's
Yeah.
just a safety
okay,
thing.
thank you.
And giving you guys a little more leverage, do what you need to do based on, weather and winds.
These are published in the op board. These will also be uploaded to the A3 operations site, this seminar, so you'll have this as well. Sir, I'll send you a copy of these slides so you have them as well. So you don't have to worry about, you have to worry about these and being able to know where the coordinates are, but we will have alternate means for you to be able to extract those besides just PowerPoint. Next slide. Uniforms, my favorite topic. A few things here. Flight duty uniforms, olive drab flight suits like Lieutenant Krisnick's got on. So I just want to highlight that the only authorized outer garment is the green flight jacket, flyers, jacket, MA, CU. Those are the only things authorized. So no lightweight blues jacket, no black civilian style jacket. This is per 39-1. Black crew neck t-shirt will be worn underneath. I've seen orange, I've seen blue, I've seen white, I've seen tan. The only color authorized for the olive drab flight suits is black. You can wear a reflective safety vest. Colonel Hoff explained that if you have more questions. The other key thing that I see is individuals wearing black tennis shoes with the flight suit all the time, or gray tennis shoes. I see it all the time. The only authorized footwear is a black combat boot. That is the only thing authorized. So no more black tennis shoes, please. No more gray tennis shoes. No neon green, please. You can wear the flight cap. You can wear the knit cap, or you can wear the baseball cap. I did not realize that that was authorized with the flight suits. I went back to 39-1 this morning and pulled that. Yes, sir.
The only thing about the baseball cap, rank insignia is no longer authorized.
Yep.
Was that in your SUP or is that 39?
That's in 39-1, sir. I pulled that this morning directly from it. It just said the cap, baseball cap. That was it. So they had a hyperlink to it, so I'm assuming it's the normal CAP per commander authorized.
There is I don't know if Maryland has it, but when Colonel Knowles was the region commander, he published a sub that we can wear the region and or wing hats as well. So as long as, and you can check on it.
Yes, sir.
As long as you are in our region, like if you went up to New Jersey, technically you can't, but if you're in our region and it's in the sub, which it is, and there's going to be a new one, if you have the Maryland wing cap and it's the appropriate Maryland wing cap that Colonel Winter approves, you will also be able to wear that. And if you happen to be a region toad, then you can wear a region toad cap.
Yes, sir. I'll provide additional details on that. I'll go back and click on the link. I didn't want to go through each specific detail in depth, but just highlight some of the key things. The bold ones I've seen, so that's why I've highlighted those. So I just wanted to reiterate the black combat boots. Corporate uniform, as most of us are wearing today. Commercially available tactical slacks. I've got the tactical slacks on, or just chino medium gray with or without cuffs. Your decision on whether you want to look fancy or not. One thing that I have seen is it gets hot during the summer. And you can get the tactical jean or tactical pants that are zip off at the knees for shorts. Those are not authorized. Yes. As long as you're coming out of the aircraft, you should be wearing a proper uniform and coming out of the aircraft with no shorts. It should be full pants. Black socks, you can wear white socks with the boots if you want, but any plain black shoe boots are required with this uniform. So if you have black shoes, you can wear those. Combat boots, you can wear those. A white undershirt can be worn as long as it cannot be seen when the collar is open. So white t-shirt, no visibility of it. So make sure you double check that if you do wear white undershirts with there. Appropriate civilian outer garments are authorized, as well as the black leather jacket, light blue windbreaker, blue flight jacket, black fleece, and the US style cardigan. Some of the other unique intricacies within these regulations is that they require you to wear underwear as well. I don't know why that's in there, but it is a requirement. So just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Next slide. Yeah. Airman battle uniform. I've seen a mix of these regarding this since we've been phasing more out of the AB or BDUs to ABUs. I kind of highlighted this. Whether tucked or bloused, the trousers must be evenly bloused, loosely draped over. A lot of times I've seen people just have their pant legs hanging there and they're not bloused or tucked into the boots that give a professional appearance. Major Thompson, if you mind standing up. So the blousing of that there shows, be safe please, is there. They're not just loosely hanging over the boot in an unprofessional manner. So again, this gets back to that professionalism. When you look professional, people look at the organization in a much different way than if we come with our shirts tucked out. One of the other things, men in this style uniform, our shirt needs to be tucked in. Females are authorized to wear it untucked, men are not. Desert tan belt will be worn with the ABUs, no black belts. So if you had a black belt from the BDUs, you have to now buy the tan belt. The ABU cap is the only authorized headgear. I can't remember if that was able to be supplemented. I don't think it can be, but with the ABUs, it cannot. Thank you, sir. So right now, ABU cap is the only one authorized. Make sure you have your rank insignia on it as well. And underneath, no black t-shirts. It should be a standard desert tan long sleeve or short sleeve t-shirt underneath your ABU coat. There are additional details in there during inclement or hot weather. Flying in the aircraft, you can take your BDU blouse off, but as soon as you exit the aircraft, make sure you put it on while you're doing flight, tying down the aircraft and all that. Or working on the flight line for excessive periods of time, there is authorizations for those since we don't want you passing out and getting dehydrated. Are there any questions on the uniform guidance? If at all you have any questions, please reread 39-1. If you're having a hard time getting to sleep, it's a great read right before you go to bed.
I just on the black boots and stuff, field duty uniform, I just double checked it. It just said, I'm not doubting you, but it said black shoes or black boots.
For the flight suit?
For the corporate field uniform, the blue. The blue,
Yeah, since not many people wear that, I didn't highlight those in there. I just
okay.
highlighted what most uniforms I see within in the wing that most members wear.
Because with ADUs, they have to be Air Force weight, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
and weight and standards should apply.
because that's the only field uniform I have.
Yep.
besides this.
Understand.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Next slide. Are there any questions overall? I'm 1 minute over. All right, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email myself or Major Ralph. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, especially when it comes to SOS, there are, excuse me, quite a few of us, and there's some people in the room I want to thank, the local Saints last year did an exceptional amount of SOS last year, okay? They're a resource you can tap into. A lot of our CULs, Colonel Horner, myself, others that live in the area, certainly don't mind coming out in Hagerstown or Cumberland or, White Comic goes fine. So take advantage of that. If you're not sure, just write us on